Let's boogie on down with a bit of music. Hello, everybody. It's episode 46, delayed by a week or two. No, just one, actually. Anyway, we're back. It's the Wonder of Stuff. Welcome. Broadcast live on Google Hangouts on air every weekend. This is, well, apart from last weekend. But this is the place where you'll find news, information, and commentary on science, engineering, and technology from the past week and beyond, and anything else that interests us from inside our tiny little human brains. As ever, my name is John Gardner, and to help us out on this journey to knowledge, let me introduce my colleagues, a team at last! Richard Smith and Ross Davidson, say hello, chaps!
Hello, chaps.
Oh, excellent. It's great to have three of us. Because what happens when you have two people is that one of them has an internet failure and the other one can't think of anything to say.
Yes, and I joined just as you turned it off as well.
Yes. So, not this week, though. We have failover. Somebody will always be able to talk, have a conversation if one leaves.
So you would never have had that problem if it had been me. I would never have run out of things to say.
Well, I was just so surprised because I was talking to Ross, and Ross was showing me something on a screen share, and I was going, yes, interesting, Ross. And I was just burbling away, and Ross wasn't moving. And I was like, oh, right, okay. It was, we kind of were at the end of the show anyway. So welcome everybody. We're back to a full compendium of glorious things, full 45 minutes. So let's get kicked off and started on this episode with a Richard special on genetically modified dogs. Go take it away, Richie! Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, very funny. Oh, me sides this split. Go on.
Yeah,
Go
all
on,
right.
do your thing.
Genetically modified dogs. So this is in the news at the Guangzhou Institute of Biomedicine.
I know it well.
Reported in the Journal of Molecular Cell Biology. They're using a gene editing technique, which is their own designer gene editing technique. It's called CRISPR, or KRISPR, Cas9, and it's a remarkably precise, this is their words, cheap and efficient way. And it's already widely used in scientific research. So they've used this to make dogs more muscular. So beagles is what they've done it on. It's derived from bacteria. The method, it directs an enzyme, the Cas9 enzyme, towards a sequence of DNA to edit, and it inserts a sequence to disrupt it to basically take out a what would you call it? Well, it's a gene called myostatin, which limits muscle growth or limits muscle size. So there's an upper limit to how big a muscle can get, and this edit removes that upper limit. So just that. Oh, it must have a sort of braking effect on muscle development as well, because when it's not present, muscles develop more readily, and that's what happens if you introduce this gene.
So what you're going to get is a load of beagles that end up the size of a bear.
Basically, yeah.
Hello, I'm a beagle. You are, son.
You can see why, in terms of evolution, why you would have that limit on, because muscles expend a lot of energy just in maintenance. So it's very dangerous to be muscular, because you need a lot of calories to support that. So you can see why that's there.
Will it not put a lot of strain on the heart as well when you've got big build-up of...
Presumably. Although I think the reason bodybuilders have problems is if you take
steroids.
anabolics, yeah, which obviously is it's you have
It's wrong,
testosterone in you anyway.
It's very wrong. Don't do it.
But if you take that, I think it's the fact that your heart valve becomes muscular as well, and that's the reason that they run into problems. I don't think it's the strain put on by the size of the biceps. I think it's the fact that the heart and stuff gets muscular, which limits the flow of blood. So they'll have to watch for that. I take it. I mean, that will be an issue. But this happens by mutation anyway. So basically, this happens naturally, if you like. This gene sometimes gets disrupted as part of normal development, and well, I guess in terms of mutation, it's abnormal, but it happens in nature. And there's a whippet, which you might have seen before, which is what you call double-muscled.
I think I've seen this. It's a great. It does look like a bodybuilder dog, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hang on a second. Sorry.
And this is a whippet that's had the same genetic editing done?
Exactly, but except for it's happened just by accident. So
go on. Let's see a picture. Go on.
2 seconds.
I want to see this massive mutated dog.
So this is.
It looks proper hard.
Jesus!
This is Wendy.
Wendy. That doesn't look like a Wendy to me.
Good God!
I must admit, the first time I ever saw that picture was on a social media site, and I assumed it was photoshopped.
Yeah.
And that was years and years ago. And then when I was looking this up, so she's still alive, but so it being like that hasn't killed her. But yeah, she's what you call double muscled. But you see bulls like that, don't you? Where they selectively breed bulls to become like that.
That is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that before.
If you saw someone walking that dog, you would cross the road, wouldn't you?
You would, wouldn't you?
But that's just. I mean, excuse me, 1 minute. No, but it's of all the breeds to do it to, a whippet is. That's just so not what a whippet is supposed to be. Well,
whippets are quite. I mean, as dogs go, whippets would be up there as the most muscular, but they're certainly not that muscular normally.
That is the Mr. T of a whippet world. That's B. Baracus. Ain't got no plain fool.
But that's the Belgian Blue, which is a cow.
That's mad.
That's a cow that's been bred to be double muscle, as they call it.
So what's the advantage of having a muscly dog then?
Okay, so what they've said is this is a quote from them. It's to well, they've said in the long run they want to manipulate the dog genome in order to mimic human diseases because dogs are very anatomically like humans. So that's the reason for that. They've got a similar metabolism physiologically and anatomical characteristics to a person. But they've said for this project, greater muscle mass, the dogs are expected to have a stronger running ability, which is good for hunting and military and police applications.
If the police get dogs looking like them, that'll help in riots, like.
But you imagine if you had a German Shepherd which was just much stronger and faster, then it's going to be just as obedient and do all the things a German Shepherd does now as an attack dog, but also
will rip your head off
with the power of a less obedient breed, I guess.
Mm.
The power of a Doberman, but the obedience of a German Shepherd. But yeah, and this is on the back of the news that a few weeks ago about micro pigs. I don't know if you saw that, but the Chinese now have bred a micro pig. I'll share a picture of that.
But I mean, we've had micro pigs before. So is this going to blow my mind?
No, not really. Basically, there is a breed of pig which is small, and what they've done is just took that and made it even smaller. So it's now the size of like a Yorkshire Terrier type of size.
Would it not be better to make it bigger, then you get more bacon?
Well, it's as a pet.
All right, okay.
It's all about bacon with you, isn't it, Ross?
Always.
So you can have it as a pet. So yeah, as you can imagine, it's been met with mixed reception depending on.
Really?
Yeah.
Incredulity, and how much did it get you to Photoshop that is probably more what has been met with.
So technically, could you use this same genetic modification on humans then?
Yeah.
And would they be banned from the Olympics?
Well, I think you'd be banned from doing it in the first place at the moment.
Well, you see, now this pushes forward the thought of having an Olympics specially for these people who have done all sorts of strange drugs and steroids and genetically modified. You could just put all of the massive freaks in one Olympics and just like get them to run so fast.
There's a good comedy sketch about that, the Drug Olympics. I can't remember which comedy program it was from, but yeah, it was basically just people who just took every drug. They just said, "Oh, all rules are off. Just see who can go the fastest and heaviest and longest and furthest."
But to be honest, is that not quite close to what happens anyway? I'm someone who actually thinks it's a bit daft to try and control it, because is there such a thing as that? I just think the whole thing of natural is rubbish anyway. I mean, if you grew up in a country with better nutrition, or you grew up somewhere that is a higher altitude, or if you grew up with a certain ethnic heritage, or you have all sorts of advantages. Which are you saying?
Well, this is the thing. There was that thing.
Children, it's not.
There was that thing recently about all the sort of leaked things at the Olympics, wasn't there? That something like 60% of people had suspicious results, which they were obviously saying was evidence that everybody was doping and stuff like that. But the tests they do these days do have to take into account that you might naturally have a higher this or that. And what they actually say is suspicious is just changes. So you might naturally have more testosterone than someone else. It's not the level of whatever that is considered cheating. It's the fact that you've had this level for 5 years and suddenly it's this level. But that sort of takes into account anything like, if you train at high altitude, you might get too much oxygen in your blood, and then that's seen as cheating.
I just think it's a bit daft where you can take chemicals, or you can do things with your diet to increase your testosterone production, but then as soon as you put androgynous testosterone in, that's unfair. I just think it starts to get a bit silly, really. But anyway, back to this. The beagles, they got 8 out of 10 female beagles pregnant, produced 27 puppies. Only 2 had this desired mutation. They haven't become like ultra buff like that. That
buff. Did you realise you're talking about a dog?
but they basically, both of them have been significant enough difference where you can see it. You can see it that they're not the same as their mates. And apparently, I couldn't find a picture of it, but one of the 2 has got noticeably beefed up fat thighs. So, yes, it makes the mind boggle.
Well, there you go. That's the way you start episode 46. Freaks of nature.
Well, freaks of not nature.
Freaks of not nature.
Franken
science.
Frankendog.
Frankenfurters. Yes.
Frankenbeagle.
Frankenbeagle. Well, I don't know actually what to say about that, Richard, because that has freaked me out something unbelievably. I've never seen those pictures before, and I don't really want to see them again. Thank you very much.
Can you imagine a cat with that much muscles? Now that would be freaky.
Oh dear, good grief! Right, the words have been taken from my mouth. So anyway, here we go. We're back. This is the sort of stuff that you want on the Wonder of Stuff. Freaks.
freaks.
Anyway, now we're going to flip from genetic mutations, manipulation, and other things like that, and we're going to go to Ross, who's been saying that he's going to cover this for weeks now. So now here it is. Here's your chance, Ross. Get it out there. I've just got down here, Ross. That star and that picture.
Yeah, that picture will come at the end. But
okay.
That star. So basically, this was in the news. It was a couple of weeks ago now, I think. But it sort of relates to something I think I'm fairly sure we've covered before in terms of the ways that astronomers can look for evidence of like alien civilizations and stuff. And I don't know if you remember something called a Dyson sphere. So basically, this was a concept put forward in 1960, I think, by Freeman Dyson on how to search for artificial, intelligence elsewhere.
Oh yeah, we did talk about this, didn't we? Because me and you talked about I forget what you call them, but the multiple tiers of civilizations and harnessing the power. It's that thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So this is basically a way of detecting an alien civilization by looking at what they may do to harness power. And the Dyson sphere is basically an idea where they would build a structure around the star, and that could be detected as being a star being much dimmer than what it should be for its sort of age and the type of star it is.
So this is a Death Star then?
No, it's not the Death Star.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately. But anyway, so that's something that's sort of out there as a potential evidence for alien life. And that brings me on to a star that's called KIC 8462852, or Tabby's star, which is after someone called Tabitha Boyan, or WTF star, which I thought was brilliant. But that stands for Where's the Flux?
Does it now?
Yeah. So basically, this is what's called an F-type main sequence star in the Cygnus constellation. And basically, you putting your hand up? Oh, no, okay.
No, I'm just saying out there.
Yeah, out there.
Basically,
in September of this year, the astronomers who are looking for planets around stars noticed something unusual about this star. And basically, they were measuring the sort of brightness, and again, we've talked about this before. Looking for planets, you look for dimming of the star. So when a planet goes in front of the star, you can see it dimming. And what they actually observed on this star was dimming, but it was sort of irregular, and it was quite often, and quite sort of a large dimming as well. I think it was about 15 to 20% of the star was being dimmed at irregular intervals.
So that suggests that there is something. There's something in orbit around it.
Yeah, and it's something very significant around it. Now, in terms of what this could be, there's obviously a lot of interest in this, because the obvious thing for it to be is some sort of like asteroid belt or comets or something like that, rocks around the sun. But in terms of the type of sun it is, it's of the age where any sort of like debris around the star should be gone completely. So this is puzzling the scientists. They don't know what it is. And SETI are now interested in this, obviously, because a lot of people are thinking, is this evidence of one of ththese Dyson spheres? So what they've done is they've actually pointed a specific array of telescopes at that, called what are they called? The ATA radio telescopes. So what they're doing is they're concentrating all the telescopes on this star to observe, but to make more observations. And what they're saying is that they're actually going to release some more data on Friday. What's it now?
Last Friday.
Observations ended on Friday. Right. So over the next few weeks, they're going to actually release some more information about this.
So is this star in a location that we've been looking at? We've mentioned before the Goldilocks zone. Is it in that area, or is it somewhere completely different?
The Goldilocks zone is about the planets around the stars. So the planets are unhabitable. In terms of this star, they were looking at it to try and find planets. I'm not sure whether they have found planets on it.
You have a Goldilocks zone at lots of different levels, though, don't you? Because you have star itself in a Goldilocks zone of the.
Yeah, it's the Goldilocks zone in that case is sort of the type of star it is, I think.
But the space telescope's been looking in particular areas of the sky, where they think that is where there's going to be more planets of habitable type.
So these sort of F-type.
Yeah.
I assume so because it was found. This odd dimming has been found by the Kepler Space Telescope.
Oh well, that's the one.
Which is what they're using to do that. So let me have another look and see when they started observing the star. So they started looking at it. When did they start looking at it? They noticed the dips in 2011, actually. So there's a roughly 750 day between the large dips. So there's two big dips.
750 days.
Yeah.
God,
so they recorded dips in
in this
2011.
space world, haven't you?
Yeah, 2011, 2013, and then 2015. And unfortunately, Kepler, which was looking at it around April, had a failure of its reaction wheel, so Kepler didn't get the observation in 2015, unfortunately. But with these other telescopes looking at it, it'll be interesting to see what else comes out, because obviously, whatever it is, it's one of these usual things where it's something that's unexplained. Like I say, the most likely explanation is debris. So, but if it's the usual kind of debris, it would have been cleared. So it may be sort of like, I don't know, there's been a relatively recent collision of a planet or something like that. So hopefully the data that comes out soon will shed some more light. And you never know, it may be aliens.
One day we're going to have an episode and we'll say it was aliens.
Quite possibly.
I mean, it's one of those. It's one of these things where you and I have had this discussion before, and it's obviously nicer to be optimistic, but at the same time, it just seems that we just simply don't know, do we? And it's highly speculative. So to me, it's kind of like even evidence seems too strong of a word because it's. You know what I mean? Do we even know what we're seeing, sort of thing?
Exactly. It's always one of these things where just because something's unexplained doesn't mean it's going to be, anything other than just something that we haven't seen yet. Yeah. We've only been looking at sort of stars using this sort of thing fairly, short time. Yeah. So there's going to be things, and there's going to be sort of planetary mechanics and things happening that we've never observed before that are going to be easily explainable once we've worked out what they are. But yeah.
Yeah, we can only go on what we've got, I suppose. But and I'm sure that the scientists who are involved in it sort of say with that caveat, don't they, that this is what we might be seeing. But
Yeah. So they say the best explanation so far is a swarm of comets. That's what they think.
Is that as a collective noun for comets?
A swarm. And the scientist who's leading the current investigation was asked, "Is it aliens?" and he suspects not. So that's his official stance on that.
I've already made my mind up. It's not.
I guess the reason the press have jumped on it is because this is the first real life example of the Dyson thing, isn't it? So
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the first possible fit for it, isn't it? So you can see why there might be a bit of excitement around that. Because he's come up with this. Did you say 60 years ago?
The Dyson Sphere. Well, it was
in the 60s, wasn't it? So it's like 50 years.
Yeah.
50 years ago. So it's the first time we've observed something that fits that hypothesis. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's why there's a bit of excitement around it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Shall I go onto that picture now that I've done that?
Yeah, go onto that picture.
That picture. So this sort of follows on from a few weeks back when we were talking about the announcement about water on Mars.
Now, obviously, this is going to be good for the people who are watching it live or on the YouTube feed. Not so good on the ones on the podcast.
Well, no, not so good.
I have to say, this is worth looking at.
Yeah.
So even if you're listening to it, get a picture of this on the internet.
Yeah. So basically, what this is when we saw the pictures from the orbiters, what they were looking for was obviously evidence of water, and the pictures we showed sort of like basically darkened trails, which suggested water coming down, and that's what they've come to the conclusion that it is. Now, this picture was actually put on a website called UFO Sightings Daily, So obviously you then think, right, okay. And a bloke called Scott Waring basically claimed to have found evidence of running water in one of the Curiosity rover's photos. And I think this photo was from, when was it from? Let me just get the picture up, and I'm not sure. I think it's from a couple of years ago. But obviously, you look at that with slight dubiousness. But I've got the photo here linked to directly from the NASA site. And if I share it with you now, there we go. So this picture here, this is taken from the rover.
So now, I must admit, when I first saw this, it just looked like a standard picture of Mars. Until, because obviously they're really, really high definition, and if you click in on them, you can see.
Just zoom in a bit. There we go. So this is the area that's of interest. Now, it's one of these things where my thoughts on this are conflicted, because the most obvious thing that looks like is water that's just flowed down there.
It looks like damp sand, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And there's actually another bit just up here on the left here that looks like it's sort of like similar, but
slightly
it's dried a bit. Yeah. So I've actually yet this was last week that this came out, and I've yet to actually see any official comments on this. I was digging around again today. So it'll be interesting to see if NASA do actually properly comment on this. But it looks pretty much exactly like the photos that they've been using for evidence of water on Mars that were taken from the orbiters. And this is like a matter of meters away from the rover. The other explanation for this could be that it's just a darker bit of material. So it could be that it's just really fine sand. It's darker, and obviously if it's fine, it's going to flow just as if it was water. But it just looks exactly like it would do if it was water.
But surely if that was liquid water there, it would be quite a large quantity just spontaneously coming out of that rock and flowing down there. I mean, I don't really know what the scale is here, but I'm guessing they're sizable-ish rocks, are they not?
Well, I think, yeah, it's difficult to know the scale from photos, especially.
But it looks like it would be. It looks like it would be 10 liters of water or something like that, doesn't it? To create something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where you think this is looking up the side of a crater by the looks of it, so this looks like it's high land, so it could be water that's flowed, if it is water, flowed through and then it's just coming out.
See, to me, when I first saw the picture, because there is absolutely nothing like that around, apart from you said that little dried up bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing around. It must be, one would logically, thought processes would be that it's coming from that collection of rocks.
Yeah.
And if it's coming from that collection of rocks and there's nothing around it, either water has descended directly onto it, or it's come up from underneath, so like a spring or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a great photo, and like I say, it was found by one of these people who scour through all of these official NASA things and find rocks that look like people
on Mars and stuff,
dinosaurs and all this sort of thing.
The thinking man.
Yeah, but for once they've actually found a picture that you think, actually you might have a point there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to.
I mean, definitely it does look like that, but then, like you've just said, those pictures of this is a woman standing there also look like that, because your mind's trained to recognise certain things, isn't it? And maybe we're just recognising something that maybe an analyst who's used to looking at these pictures, or a computer, would say, no, that's not what you think it is.
Yeah. But like I say, it looks like exactly the same evidence they've used in their recent announcement. You know what I mean?
You must think it's distinct in some way, otherwise they would be reacting to it, wouldn't they?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you think, is it something that's just been missed in the photos when they've gone through, no one's ever looked at it, and now they're looking at it, they're being quiet because there's a lot, like they're going through more photos or something like that? Or is it just that they do have an explanation, they're just not giving it the time of day? because it's been found by someone on the UFO side. I don't know. I mean, I think it does warrant a reply from NASA, unlike the ones where it is just a rock that looks like a.
Oh, it definitely warrants a response.
I think this one does warrant it.
Very authentic, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if that was taken by the rover, why can't they get the rover back there?
Well, like I say,
I take it it's moved on since then.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. This photo.
Oh, years. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll take another few years to get the rover back over there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would totally be a game changer if it was water, because from what they've described about the saline sort of solution, almost water type of thing, to that would clearly be like a gallon of liquid water running down a hill.
But like we discussed last time, what they would effectively have to do, if they look at that and think, okay, that's water, they would have to drive the rover in the opposite direction, because they can't risk contaminate.
Because this is the 1967 Treaty on
Space, whatever, yeah.
Whatever, yes.
Yeah, they're not allowed to actually go towards it and sample it in case they contaminate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, how are you ever meant? What's the protocol for actually sampling it then?
No, you can't.
There isn't one. There's an international space treaty that says you have to stay away from any sources of water or life.
And you can't even build something
right.
build something to monitor it.
Yeah,
because
you can't get your equipment clean enough to not risk contaminating it.
So we did this. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago when you were having a life, and yeah, it just seemed that the investigation and the advancement of technology that has brought rovers and CubeSats and whatever has bypassed these conventions that have been written back when man was just about to step on the moon, and this is one of them. I think it was 1967 or something, wasn't it? Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
it was just before the Apollos.
It sounds a bit outmoded, I have to say. It sounds a bit naive, almost like you're worried about finding another civilization, or evolution already in progress, or well, it was because I think you said it was something to do with how we have these treaties of Antarctica and stuff like that, where they can't where it's you can't own the whole of the Antarctic. It was like that. It was basically you can't own a planet. Yeah.
You can't carve a planet up and say this is because even when the Americans flapped the flag on the moon, it couldn't be theirs.
That's fair enough. But you'd think if you found something worth investigating, you'd be able to get some kind of permission for it. But
it was part of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. That's who has the treaty, and it was basically the only way to be completely sterile would be to use really powerful radiation on your equipment, which would destroy any electronics.
So there you go. So that is one for NASA to come back and say, I happen. You got a point, lad. As they do, because they're all from Yorkshire. Right. Okay. Well, without further ado, I'll pop onto mine then, and I've entitled this "The Green Grass of Home." Actually, it's the green seagrass of home. So we're going to do a little bit of biology 101 basics. Animals breathe oxygen and give out carbon dioxide.
Correct.
Plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. That's all. That's fairly factual there. I don't think there's anybody going to contradict me on that. Well, common wisdom dictates that the biggest carbon sink, so the biggest place where all this carbon gets taken in and converted into oxygen, is the rainforests around the world. But it is not, actually. For that, we need to look to the seas, or at least under the seas. Seagrass is the topic of this. Seagrass is supposedly up to 35 times more efficient at sequestering or taking in carbon than the rainforests, and it stores it for millennia in the sediment below the seagrass. Now, what they suggesting is that due to sediment dumping, when they're doing coastal development projects and dump all the sediment out to sea, pollution, agricultural nutrient runoff, and various other things that humans have done, to destroy the planet that we're on, as we do. They reckon that this is causing a serious decline in seagrass, and obviously, because it's a carbon sink like the rainforest, and we're killing it off, it's releasing the carbon at a rate similar to the emissions of Australia and United Kingdom combined. So seagrass disturbance shows that the natural regrowth can help cap the release of this carbon that's stored, but it's a very slow process, and the idea is that we're going to try and give it a helping hand. They found out, the Australians found out, it's an Australian project. They found out that back in 1969 they'd started drilling holes in the seabed, test drills, to see if it was suitable for a nuclear power station. And where these test drilling were done, the seagrass has never recovered from there, and that's a fair time ago. So I'm 43, it's older than me. So that what the University of Technology in Sydney are doing, and they're having a look at the area to see what happens to the seagrass after this disturbance happens. They took a series of samples from the soil and compared the areas that were undisturbed to those that were disturbed, but that the seagrass has grown back, and those disturbed where the seagrass hadn't grown back and remained bare. And in the bare areas, they reckon that 72% of the carbon stored in the top metre of the sediment, which had been stored there for over the past 6,000 years, had been released in less than 5 decades. So it had been stored there for 6,000 years, and in 50 years it had gone. So it's a bit of an issue. So they were saying that the recovered areas lost about half as much as carbon as the unrecovered areas as well. And there are microbes that live within the seagrass, and they assist in this, and it's a bad thing basically. So what they're saying that they're going to have to do to get this seagrass back, because it is so important to us now, is they're going to have to essentially grow seagrass elsewhere and transplant it into these bits where we've stuffed it up, because it won't grow quick enough as that shows. 1969 still bare.
So where does the seagrass grow? Is it close to land? Is this why it's been sort of affected by?
It's reasonably close to land. It can grow anywhere, but the normally the certain areas. Australia's a particularly good area. They grow in very similar areas to where they've got coral, so the reefs off Australia. So and it is. I haven't got a picture actually, but let me just see if I can find one, because it is incredibly well. It's for those.
So when you're saying about its contribution to reducing CO2 and greenhouse gases and what have you, is that like it's more efficient by the plant, or it's more efficient because it's abundant? Is it like more on a gram for gram basis? Is it more efficient, or is it more efficient because it's very abundant?
It's more efficient. It's more efficient if storing the carbon than a tree in a rainforest.
So the rainforest might be the holder by the fact that there's a lot of it.
Yeah. But I think there's more seagrass per square area than there is of the rainforest.
Right.
And I think they've underestimated all these years. They've underestimated how much.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
So that's particular seagrass. So it's just carpets and carpets of the stuff.
So it's more efficient and also it's more abundant. So its effect is enormous then.
It is, yeah, it is really more important than the rainforest, but it doesn't get any publicity, and that's probably because I think we've said this before. We go in research and we're going into outer space and we're exploring, but in the seas we've hardly touched half the seas.
So do they know sort of percentage-wise how much has been destroyed in the past 100 years or something? You hear the sort of thing when you hear those sort of things about the rainforest, how much has been destroyed?
Well, I think it was about they did an estimate in 2012. They reckon that the amount of seagrass meadows, because they call them in the same way as we would have.
They have sea cows on these sea meadows.
Yes, and seahorses. They reckon that the amount of these seagrass meadows that we've been destroying, is releasing more than 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide or equivalent each year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fairly scary.
It is.
They reckon that one of the main issues is because if you destroy it, it just doesn't grow back. Mm-hmm. And I think it's all part of the whole ecosystem of the planet. This is part of it. It's a very important part of it that we've never really looked at before. But obviously, we have to stop the deforestation of the rainforest as well. But we also have to assist this to start growing back, because it's all part of the whole unified system of life. And now I'm going to sing a Disney song.
Well, that's happy to end on.
Yeah, we've done it again.
You've took over from Richard. You really have to think about the ordering of these stories, John.
Yeah, but it's something I think it was interesting. It was in New Scientist magazine, and I thought, yeah, that's because
so when you say that they're going to look into growing elsewhere and transplanting it, is that a practical solution, or they're just saying that's something they're going to have to consider? Like, how would you do that?
To be honest,
where would you grow it?
If we're only at the stage, I do realise the next phrase that I'm going to utter out of my mouth will mean that I'll have to change the rating on iTunes. But we have already fucked it up. If they're only now just considering doing something, we have fucked it up. I just don't see how they're going to be able to grow enough of the stuff.
Yeah.
They can patch the little bits around, but it's.
I mean, presumably, if we want to carry on developing the way that we are, we have to come up with solutions that are, 100 times more efficient than anything biology offers. You would have thought, like, long term.
Yeah, you'll have to think of a mechanical way of dealing with carbon dioxide.
Well, they have scrubbers, don't they? I know that obviously they're much smaller scale, but when people fly off into space, they have scrubbers that convert the oxygen or get rid of the carbon dioxide. I'm not sure which. I guess to get rid of the carbon dioxide, but something on a world scale of that, which is clearly a very long way off. But at least the principal technology is there, isn't it, that you can do it?
Mm-hmm.
They can't, these are the people who can't decide how to distribute 200,000 refugees across an entire continent. What are the chances of actually them getting together and going, we really must do something with this carbon dioxide shit that's going down? It's just, I'm sorry if this is a very terrible negative thing, but that's just the way I feel at the moment. Okay, well,
I'll tell you what, John, it'll be fine.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, before I go very suicidal and maudlin, I think we better end it here. And look at this, 2044. Good God. Hey.
Time?
For once. So this is the end of episode 46 of The Wonder of Stuff, the premiere podcast and video and vodcast on science, engineering, and technology subjects. If you've liked what we've said tonight, if you want to pick up on some of the things we've said and say, that's just bollocks, chaps, well, that's fair enough. We have many methods of communication. We all have our little Twitter handles that have been on here all night. Actually, they haven't, have they? I'm the only one.
No, I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got that. We've also got our wonderful email address of wonderofstuff@gmail.com. We have our blog, which has links to the shows, wonderofstuff.blogspot.com. It has a list of all topics that we've discussed in the past. It has a link to the RSS feed for the audio version. And it has a biography about us, and it has some books that you might want to read and all sorts of stuff like that. And you can obviously also comment on the actual YouTube videos after you've watched them 1,000 times and laughed your arse off. So please, we really do want feedback. We're getting close to the 52nd episode, which, as Ross and I discussed when Richard was away, is our birthday, essentially. So I think what we're going to do for that is we're going to try and do something. Try and think of something that's quite good. Quite good. Not very good. No, excellent.
Have a little party.
Quite good. Have a party, and probably what we'll do there is that was the day when we might go and submit the podcast to all of the podcasting directories and iTunes and everything, and try and get some more viewers and listeners. So anyway, until then, everybody, we hope you enjoyed it. We have. So we will say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.